Hello, everyone. Rachel here with a couple of announcements before Venerable arrives. As usual, we have our novena each Thursday between 5:45 and 6 p.m. And you are invited to join us for any or all of that via YouTube. And you can send prayer requests to prayer@heartwoodrefuge.org. We also have our 5 mindfulness trainings recitation coming up this and every first Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Sister Clear Grace and Sister Clear Suchness perform the recitation ceremony to be in accord with the practice of the 5 mindfulness trainings. This is also something that you will need to register for through our website on the retreats page. It's free, but once you register, you'll get a link to join us. The 20th Outstanding Women in Buddhism Awards ceremony is coming right up on March 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Please join Heartwood in hosting this virtual celebration in honor of the United Nations International Women's Day. There will be outstanding women in Buddhism from the USA, Taiwan, Thailand, and more represented and recognized. Again, that will also need to be registered for just to get the Zoom link, and that is on the retreats page of our website. We thank you for all of your contributions with your time and financial resources to Heartwood. You can, if you're interested in providing any kind of donations, you can visit us on our webpage under the giving option to see ways that you can support us. Examples of things that the funds go to is our Nuns Fund, social projects, and retiring our mortgage. And lastly, as always, just please like, follow, and share on social media. And thank you so much, and we'll get started momentarily. Hello, I'm back. I was just asked to let you all know that while we wait for Venerable to arrive, you're open to sharing any insights from the last week following our last contemplation on Tuesday of last week. So you're free to share if you'd like right now as we wait.
So first I wanted to thank everyone who was on, was that Sunday?
Yes.
Who was on Sunday. It did so much for Panyadeepa. Just your presence invigorated him. He had actually just come up to take for a photo shoot. And I was in a meeting, and I ran over a couple of minutes, and so as I was rushing, I could say, down from the mother house to the Dharma hall, he had been talking with the folks that were gathered there for Dharma, just kind of general conversation. And you really energize him and cause him to gather his wits and gather his thoughts. And when I walked in the door, he was on a roll. So I was like, just keep going, and but it was so refreshing, and he was so present. And that doesn't happen that often. And when he is, you would think, oh, well, then, Panyadeepa was just fine. And within himself, he is just fine. But sometimes it's, some things are activated by need. Do you understand what I mean? And when he found himself in the moment that he had to pick up the slack, he came to himself. And it was just really delightful for me to witness, and also it made him very happy in his own mind. He's still talking about it, and I'm like, well, you want to go and give Dharma today? No. So we can know that even in spite of some difficulties we can have in life, and some of the conditions that come with embodiment, the body, because that's what the condition is here, is the condition of this body, and all of the other aggregates that are tied to this body, because none of them are present without the body in the human life. So we can say that's the stronghold right there, and that's why the Buddha has us do practices that disengage and disentangle us so much from the thought of I am these aggregates, I am this body, I am my thoughts, I am feeling, I am perception. He breaks it down so that we can clearly see that we are not these things, and it becomes helpful to us when these things provide or create a hindrance for us. So I had an experience, and sometimes like you just know what the Dharma says, you understand it all together, and then you have this experience and you realize that you have forgotten something at a very important moment in time, and you go back and you get it. So we're always remembering. To dismember is to cut something apart. To remember is to weave it all back together. So we have to, we break the Dharma apart to understand it, but then we have to put it all back together so that we can utilize it, in our waking life. And this part of this, the enlightenment factor of investigation is to have the capacity to take something and break it apart, but then you put it all back together and you learn how to live it out more than just understanding words and terms, more than just intellectual understanding meaning, but that you can apply it in your life so that you can walk your life with a certain kind of freedom and liberty. So the night before last, I couldn't sleep. And as I do sometimes, I will turn on the TV. I admit it, and I'll watch a show, or I'll watch The Voice, or something like that. And I turned on TV, and I was thinking, like, I'm tired, so this will just put me out, but it didn't. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So then I decided I'll use my proved weapons. I'll meditate. And that'll really put me in the zone. So I happily cut the TV off, right? And I set up to meditate. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And while there was a lifting, some passage of the agitation that I felt, there was still some mental dis-ease. And I'm not one that worries about things too much. I see that and I'll figure out what to do, or I have no idea what to do, and that's just that, but even after meditating, I still felt some unsettling. So now I'm beginning to wonder, because that's not a usual way that my mind just doesn't go to a lot of worrying, because I know that doesn't accomplish anything. And I'm wondering, what's on my mind? What's this bird so deep that I can't even identify what's bothering me. So then I started thinking, am I worried about, somebody at Heartwood? No. Am I worried about finances? We're still closed? No. Am I worried about fire? Because Heartwood is like a huge tinderbox. It's all frame structure. And I'm always thinking, at least if not worried, thinking about fire. Don't light any candles, don't burn any incense, and the fire department, I promised them that we wouldn't, because they've already let me know it's really difficult to get up in here in case of a fire. I'm like, okay. But no, that wasn't on my mind. I went down there to see if it was because, it had been raining hard for several hours. You remember, if you live here, how hard it was raining. But not only was it raining torrentially, the wind was blowing. And we have a lot of pine trees on the bedroom side of the Hermitage. And pine trees have shallow roots, but they grow very tall. And we have some that's like 150 feet, and they're all like hovering over the bedroom. And so sometimes when the wind's blowing too much, we come into the living room, the other part of the house, just in case the tree falls over. But no, I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't worried about that. So I was thinking, maybe it's about, changes. And I know I'm looking forward to changes all the time. I've never been one who liked things to stay the same. I think I've lived in probably 40 different houses, because I don't like the same thing beyond a year or so. So this has been, really a shift for me to be able to tolerate, to endure sameness year after year, So no, I've had some growth on that part. I can stay in a place forever, or I can go. Either's okay. That's not it. And I'm thinking. So I'm wondering, okay, so what is it about Deepa dying? Am I worrying about, no, I'm really not. What way? Maybe me dying, I'm like, no, that's not it either. So that's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So now I'm thinking, I got it. This is not internal to me at all. This is like just some kind of sound frequency disturbance. So I'm thinking like that, yes. So I have, I have a TV in the room, I have a computer in the room, I have a cell phone in the room. Right outside my window is where the service box is, and everything comes into the house. I know I'm so sensitive, I'm so super sensitive. This is the buzz that's below my, auditory level, conscious auditory level, and it's jangling and disturbing my system. That's what it is, So I get out my noise canceling earphones. My best ones, and that didn't help, because now I just had all of this ringing in my head, in my ears, and when it cut out all the outer sound, there was a whole lot of internal sound. So I said, okay, so that's not it. I know I need to neutralize the vibrations that's streaming all through here. So then I got out my other earphones, and I got my laptop out, and I put on, started playing Hertz music, that has certain frequencies that are designed to, neutralize other frequencies. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. None of it helped. Finally, from exhaustion, I fell asleep. And I slept deeply, 5 solid hours. And I woke up feeling great and got on with my day yesterday. And so I was thinking about this all day. And what the Buddha talks to us about, wise attention. And the purpose, meditation is not an end unto itself, right? I mean, we know that, right? I mean, our goal is not to be great meditators. We become great meditators that aids us in reaching a goal, but the goal is not, to be a great meditator. But I was thinking, why didn't meditation work for me? Me of all people, I know how to meditate. So I was wondering why. And then it came to my mind when he talks about wise attention. So sometimes psychology tells us we have these things, we got this whole train of thought that's running below the surface, and we can't quite get to it and address it because we haven't gone deep enough into, and we start checking ourselves once and checking ourselves twice. It's because of this, just trying to go down a little deeper into what we're really thinking. But the crux of the Buddha's teaching is that whatever we think and ponder on becomes the inclination of the mind. So maybe asking why is not, it's not right thought. Asking why is unwise. Attention opens up unwise attention. And I sat with that yesterday. It's such a little thing. Isn't it natural when one is troubled to come or try to come to the root of what is troubling them? Isn't it not? That's natural. Our inclination, a natural tendency. Yeah. So I can't understand how it would be wise if he was asking us to do something that's not a natural tendency when he's always telling us everything we're doing is so unnatural, going against the flow, and of all of the world, everything is in order but man, right? Mankind. We're just going in this bizarre way, coming back to the universal order of things. So I'm thinking, well, then it should seem right to sit there and go through my tick list of what could be troubling me until I got, I found it. But he recommends actually that we do something else. We ask a different question. Not why, but how. How is this occurring? So in one of the suttas, he talks about the 6 sets of 6. He talks about the internal base and how it comes in contact with an external base. Like the ear hears something, mind thinks something, eyes see something, like that. So then consciousness arises. Like I know what I see, or I know I am hearing something, or I know I am tasting something. And that internal base that makes contact with an external, and the consciousness that arises so that it knows it's made contact, it's touched something. It says these 3 create what he calls contact. And with contact comes feeling. Now we sort of like put an S on it, like feelings. But when we put the S on it, we take that into a sort of like a mental realm. Like he hurt my feelings. She hurt my feelings. And we think of it sort of in that kind of way. But he's not really speaking of it in those kinds of terms. He's speaking of it in a purely sensational way of pleasant, unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And so in that way it is tied into mental, but it's not so much in the sense of emotional. That's what I mean. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I leave the S off of feeling and rarely, unless it's a slip of the tongue, say feelings, because feelings sort of signify something else for us that's really complex. But he said it doesn't have to be that complex. It's either pleasant or it's unpleasant, or you feeling ambivalent, not like I could care less, but almost like it's so subtle that not enough is there to create an aversion to it or liking for it. Because with feeling, when feeling registers in the aggregates, there arises a clinging, grasping after it if it is pleasant, and an aversion to it if it is unpleasant. And from that comes craving for more of it. So addiction is built into the fabric of our being. In the unenlightened mind, we're all addicted to something. We've just labeled something out here addictive behavior, but we're all suffering from addictive behavior, addictive tendencies that produce certain behaviors. Better way to say it. And so from that place of craving or going in the opposite direction, the same amount of aversion when we push something away. And that creates becoming something is born, something is created in that moment that's based on that whole scenario. So the Buddha suggests that a more useful way of actually getting to the root of something is first to separate oneself from it, as opposed to diving deeper into it, thinking it's me, it's mine, I'm all entangled in this. And that sort of goes against our grain of rational thought, against our understanding of the capacity for deep introspection, and all of that, doesn't it? I think, therefore I am. But he's showing us a hack that is not without its rewards, if we can remember. And so he says, not so much, what is this, or why is this, but how is this coming about? So if when the thought came to me, I feel anxious, I guess it was anxiety. I'm not really sure. As I say, it's not often, but it just felt like a little zingy, and I started with, what is this? Instead of how. And it was a whole night of going around in circles, running hither and thither. When I could have exercised wise attention, especially because I know what it is. So the next morning, I got up and I saw Panyadeepa, and he always starts with, how are you today? And how was your night? And I said, I suffered. He said, oh, well. That was it. It's like, oh, well. He says, I said, but I feel great now. And he said, oh, well. So, he said, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, he says, he says, I'm living in a space now where there's constant ups and downs, ups and downs, up and down. He said, and I've gotten to the place recently that this is no longer new for me. He said, it was new for me for a while. And I was trying to figure it out and trying to understand it. And in trying to do that, doing so much research, I'm looking back over my life and how much I put into proper nutrition, exercise, you know, all of these spiritual practice, all of this, to come up with this at the end of my life. I said I could not make sense of it. So I did the next thing, and that was abandoned the whole inner conversation about it. I said, what, you in denial? He said, nope. He said, I'm not in denial, but I'm fully present with everything and as it is. That's it. And I said, well, I'm glad that you reached that place. You know, we reach that place after we've tried everything else. And when nothing else works, then we accept, right? So I said, well, I'm glad I'm not at the place where I just have to accept. I'm still trying to do something to make it better. He said, let me know how that works out for you. And so, but it's wonderful, you know, and that's why a lot of times when someone is talking to me, it's not that I don't care, it's not that I don't have compassion, it's not that, you know, I'm not touched with your feelings of infirmity, but my job is to point you to your place of escape. That's my job. I can't get down in the hole with you, especially if we can't jump and reach the top and pull ourselves up, or we can't stack up and get out the hole. So there's no point in jumping down in there with you. We just die together. No. But it is for me to reach. So sometimes within Familiarity, there may be something else rising up because I'm touched with the same infirmities that you're touched with. Nevertheless, it's not for me to dump my dysfunctional stuff on you. It's not to pretend that it's not there either. But to say, nevertheless, when it's there, if you couldn't find your way out when you came out, go back and reflect what held you there so long. Because any lesson we forget, we are bound to repeat. So I'm pretty sure that I won't forget this one. Because there was so much suffering. And when people say, well, I couldn't sleep, or I have insomnia, whatever, you know, I never think of having insomnia because if I'm awake, I'm awake. And I just do things that wake people do until I'm sleepy, then I go to sleep. But wanting to sleep and could not sleep because the mind had been invaded and did not employ the Dharma, made such an impression on me the night before last. So one reason why we're doing, and I'm doing this too, I'm doing the 50 weeks along with you. You know, because you always think, yeah, I know, yeah, I see. But having to really take this time to step away from so much verbal regurgitation of the Dharma and so much mental assent and really see if we're putting the teachings into practice, I tell you, will make a big difference in your life. Because it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. It's the little things that we think are not even worthy of our attention because we're so lofty in our concepts around freedom and liberation and what Dharma is. That sometimes we have to go back and really examine, is this true for me? And then the Dharma becomes exciting. It becomes invigorating because every time I see where I am causing myself suffering, provides me with a greater impetus for being able to live life successfully, for life to have meaning, for a greater and greater arousal of confidence in the way, faith in the path, the juiciness, the enjoyment of the taste of freedom. And it allows us to be more and more in the present moment with equanimity, not tied up with it all. And really, the only way that you can work through these things is that you encounter it. You know, we think we overcome something when our outer circumstances don't present the opportunity to check. We think we've overcome something. Oh, I used to be like that, but I'm so far beyond that now because life is just so good for me, this or that and the other. But let life get bad. Let things start turning around. Even things that we can deal with normally for a day, a week, a month. Let it go on for 6 months. Even familiarity, being with people that you love, brings about contempt. And when trust in those you're living with is eroded every day, is a living hell. And you don't trust the people you live with. And so the Buddha encourages us to go beyond words and phrases and pithy sayings and rationalization. He said, bring it home. Bring it all home to yourself, to where you really live. And see how well you are there. I don't have a clock. Is there one in this room? I haven't seen it for a while. Y'all know I need one. Thank you. Okay. So I wanted to read a couple of passages today. We're going to get to last week's homework in a minute. But for this week, wise attention. When something is troubling you, and which of the methods you will use as medicine for that troubling. He speaks of things not worthy to be called me or mine. I am not this. So if one was troubled, the inquiry could be, who is it to be troubled, or what is it? If that was too much, how does troubling come about? How? He says by the time you trace how the construction and the creation of troubling, you will, by virtue of the of charting out the path of it, you will uproot it. So I could have just said, oh, this thought or this agitation, this feeling that I have, how did that feeling come about? And I could just trace the scenario. I might not go to, I could start at the beginning, internal base. I could say mind met external, or thought arose. I understood the thought. And the three of these made contact, but that wasn't really the case for me. So no, that's not it. With contact comes a feeling. And so I had a feeling. So maybe I could have just started with that feeling. What do I know about feeling? Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. It's going to be one of those three. But it's just a feeling. Feeling is not me. I could have soothed my understanding in that way. Like, oh yeah, forgot it. Feelings come and feelings go. And I could have put it in its place, in its category. And I could have left it right there for a minute. And then when feeling no longer had that internal base connecting with a thought, the three of them arising because I know what it is and there was feeling. It has nothing to remain present upon. There's no platform for it. So, feeling, I'm trying to create a platform for it. Did you see that in my thoughts? Well, I wonder if it's this. It could possibly be that. Am I worrying about such and such? No, well, maybe it's this. I'm trying to give it a platform. So in other words, I'm increasing its capacity to be, its existence. I am creating that at the moment. Not deconstructing, but creating. Which actually only led to more anxiety around I don't even know what. Instead of recognizing a feeling. I could have even spoken to the feelings that like, when you have more information you want to share, come back again. Come back and see me then. Whatever it took to loosen the knot. But we go in the opposite direction. Even us well-taught, well-practiced disciples And that's why, it's not a whole lot to the Dharma. I mean, it really isn't. When you look at it, it's like just the same things said 100,000 different ways. Like hopefully we'll catch it here or there, but it's the same things over and over and over. It's not 100,000 new or different things. It's the same things. But it looks like this in one situation. It feels like this in another situation. It appears to be like this in another situation. So it just tries to cover all the dots so that you can see it from whichever end you are approaching something, how to see it clearly. And with every talk, being in the presence of different people who had different minds, explain things in different ways, so that those present, he really wasn't preaching to people who weren't there. He was talking to the people who were there. And there are many others who think that same way. And so when they pass the stories on, some of the stories and the teachings hit us, they land because I can so identify. And some of them don't land. Some of the ways that we express the Dharma through our understanding lands on some people, and some of the ways don't land. And we know that. So if we think everybody likes to hear, if I thought, I'll just leave it personal, if I thought everybody liked to hear the Dharma the way I express it, I would be like, sorely disappointed. My feelings would be really hurt because a lot of people can't relate to it this way. But some can. It's useful for some, not for all. So I have no illusion about that. And that's why, and he doesn't either. He said that's why he says forget about who's delivering it and even how they're delivering. It's just what is being delivered. And if you could take that and put that into the cauldron of your experience, the what that is being delivered, and see if that works for you. So forget about how it was delivered. Whether it was offensive, whether it was enjoyable. That's why when people come and say, who's teaching the Dharma, show up and find out. That's all. I didn't say it because we really don't know yet, because a lot of times we don't. But that's a wrong way to get oneself, to position oneself, because then it gets into personality rather than to the substance of the Dharma. That's what I'm saying, keep your focus on the substance of the Dharma. And then you can learn from anybody, even your enemy. And you come to appreciate your enemy as much as a friend. Matter of fact, our enemies teach us more than our friends do, because our friends want to stay our friends. So, in the Digha Nikaya, it says, even ignorant people look for a pathway to reality. It's just that searching for it, they misunderstand what they encounter. And so they pursue names and categories instead of going beyond the name to that which is real. So that's what we're doing this year. We're going beyond names and categories to that which is real in our lives, because therein only lies the freedom. He said, in discourse 2, let me tell you about the middle path. Dressing in rough garments, dressing in robes. And if you're in India, there was a lot of asceticism, so some people, they like totally, maligned the body, and he was just saying abandon it, but abandon in the terms of thinking of it as me and mine, not in terms of it, actually. So there you see a lot of the, the holy men, they don't dress, they don't, so some go naked, like naked aesthetics, they don't bathe, their hair is all matted, because they don't do anything with it. And of course the Buddhist disciples were ascetics too, and they lived in the forest. He said, tell you what, you cut all that off, It says letting your hair grow matted, or I say shaving your head and going bald. Abstaining from eating any meat or flesh does not cleanse one who is deluded. Mortifying the flesh through excessive hardship does not lead to triumph over the senses. All self-inflicted suffering is useless as long as the feeling of self is dominant in you. So you should lose your involvement with self. Your constant doting, thinking about yourself in relationship to everything you do, what you don't touch, what you don't taste, what you don't handle. You should lose your involvement with yourself and then eat and drink naturally, according to the needs of your body. Attachment to your appetites, whether you deprive yourself or you indulge yourself, leads to slavery. He says, but satisfying the needs of daily life is not wrong. Indeed, one should keep himself in good health. It's your duty, for otherwise the mind will not stay strong and clear. This is the middle path. So whatever station we choose in life, because we do choose. And when I say station here, I'm thinking of how close we get in discipleship to the Dharma. Whether we take up, an ascetic life, whether we take up a cloistered life, whether we take up a community life, community sangha life, that's like monastic life, whether we take up a community sangha life that is a lay life, whether we don't take up a community life at all and live as a hermit. So all of these are choices we make. But don't think of them so much in terms of words and stations, because they're just simply choices. It says, think of living and walking each moment in what would give me freedom in the choice that I've made. And if I can not find a freedom, then I might need to make another choice. If you make a mistake, don't compound it by staying, and bring suffering to yourself and somebody else. Just do what you gotta do, start fresh. But we get so attached to the choices that we make as representing who we are, that even when we know it's time for a change, we have a hard time making it. Because we feel like, who would I be then when I'm not this? What will people think then when I'm not like that? We used to play a game when I was a child, and you move all around and say something. I forget the name. I think it was a girl's name was in it. And how she died like this, and then you freeze on this, and anybody that moved, they were out because you couldn't change. You had to be the same, and we get like that. We get frozen in an identification. And there, he said, is the binding. So I just wanted to end with something that's totally unrelated. Well, not totally unrelated, but it would be a little stretch to try to tie it together with this thought today. But I in my own mind, it's all so interconnected with me that I only need one word to vector off into something entirely different and see it totally connected, to that. It says, one day a bright and intelligent disciple of the Buddha asked if he could fetch his younger brother to join the order. Delighted, the Buddha agreed. But the younger brother, although kind and gentle, turned out to be slow and dull-witted. He could understand nothing of the studies, and he asked to go home so that he wouldn't waste the Buddha's time or let his brother down. There's no need for you to give up, the Buddha said. You should not abandon your search for liberation just because you seem to yourself to be thick-witted. You can drop all the philosophy you've been given and repeat a mantra instead, one that I will give you now. He gave the young man a mantra and sent him away affectionately. But soon the monk was back, this time even more humiliated. He said, I cannot remember the mantra you gave me, so I can no longer practice. And the Buddha repeated it for him. But twice more he came back, having forgotten it each time. So the Buddha gave him a more simple one. But when this too slipped completely out of his mind, he hardly dared to visit the Buddha again. Now, when I was reading this story, it was such a freedom for me, because I practice Vajrayana and we have lots of mantras. And I have a Yidam practice and it's lots of mantras. And I have a hard time remembering the mantras without the words in front of me. But if my eyes are open reading the words, I can't really get into the ambience of the meaning, because I'm trying to recite, these words, and I need to have my eyes open and look at it on paper. So it's a little frustrating, because I want it to become like rote in me, so that I can just abandon myself in the essence of it, not the words of it. And so even when I remember some of it, if you can't start me off with the first couple of syllables, I can't remember it. But he gave me a couple of syllables and I got the whole mantra. And I've heard some people say, well, I don't think that's what the Buddha did. The Buddha didn't give mantras. That was a later development. But this is taken from the Majjhima Nikaya. It was earlier, not later. It's just a lot of times we pick one of his methods and we so focus on that. We think that's the real method and everything else was concocted later. You know, just because we don't know. And so the Buddha repeated it for him, but twice more he came back, having forgotten it each time. So the Buddha gave him an even simpler one. There's an even shorter version. The Buddha told him with a smile. It's just 2 syllables. See if you can remember that. But he could not. In his hut he broke down and wept. And his brother found him and was furious, feeling that his own reputation had been sullied because he brought him there. And he told the young monk to go home, so the boy left and made his way back towards home. And as he neared a grove of trees, he met the Buddha coming. And the Buddha smiled, and together they went to the temple where the old monks were sweeping the floor. And the Buddha said to them, "This young monk will live here with you from now on. Continue your sweeping. And as your brooms move back and forth, say the 2-syllable mantra that I will give you, and don't stop." The young monk sat down and listened to the movement of the brooms, to and fro. He heard the whispered rhythm of the mantra as it was repeated over and over. And this went on for many weeks. And before the Buddha came back, the young monk had found full liberation. And also, so had those around him. Now, I love this version. There's another version of it that I've read where the nuns asked for a teacher, and the Buddha sent a monk. And they said, "Oh no, don't give us him. He can't. No, don't give us him." And so he went back and said, "The nuns rejected me." And so the Buddha sent him off with just a mantra to recite, a mind seal, something that allowed him to subdue the hindrances long enough that a stainless vision of truth could arise in his mind. And it broke his illusion about the nature of reality, and he attained enlightenment. And he came back to give them a Dhamma talk. And it said that he didn't just pull up a chair and give those nuns a Dhamma talk. He said he arose in the air and gave them a talk, sitting on the wind, And so I say this because sometimes we reject things that could really work for us. But because that's not what, how we were introduced or what we know, we reject it. I have students, in the Dhamacharya program. Somebody's always telling me about, well, my first teacher told me this, or my, so, okay. That had worked fully for you, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So I might introduce you to something else. So I don't want to go. If you have a question about how this relates to what your first teacher told you, ask your first teacher, But I'm just sharing this, take what you want of it, do with it what you will. It's this comparing mind, and that mind that would like to stay stuck in a particular view and identity because that's the one good or bad, useful or not, that's the one we know. That makes us feel secure in a very insecure way. So he's trying to teach us courage, because you can't have freedom without having courage. You can't have freedom by holding on and clinging to the past. And you can't have joy if you don't have freedom. And you can't have release if you don't have joy. And so there are definite steps. And they go in a definite order for all of us. Maybe different things bring them about. But when what you're doing is not working, look and see which step you skipped over, what you missed, and go back and get that. Pick that up. So, do we understand what our assignment is for this week? Do? Everybody forgot already?
No, you were saying watch your feelings and how suffering has come about, looking at the contact, thoughts, feelings, and deconstructing it.
Okay, so the only thing I would, that was pretty good. The only thing I would like to suggest is that we discontinue the use of feelings in the way that we understand feelings, like this emotion and so forth. And it's not that we don't have emotions, not that there is not emoting going on, but not solidifying emoting, because he breaks it down in a different way, that we don't have to become, one reason why it's hard to get out of emotions, because that's fabricated. And so, trying to catch ourselves sooner and sooner, so that, that's what awareness is. Awareness, we call it practicing awareness, but awareness is not a practice. Awareness is being aware. It's not a practice. And so, if we're just looking and catching things, I think we'll enjoy a greater freedom. He has promised it. And to the extent I can put it into practice, I have found it to be so. And even when I forget, or even when caught up in the moment of feelings, this fabricated feelings arena, and I forget, when I remember the teachings, I can go back and review and have understanding about what actually caused my suffering. So even though we can't eliminate every misfortune in life, because this is a world of consequence, cause and condition, even though we may encounter unpleasant situations, and even though there may be an agitator, we don't have to be agitated. That is the state of an ignorant mind. A mind that just doesn't know. That's what I mean. That's what he means when he speaks of ignorant. Ignorant, he means a not knowing mind. His understanding is not full. So I'm not sure we got to, I tried to find the last Tuesday's talk online. It's not online. Because I couldn't find it to listen to it. It's not online. Can it go online? Okay. So I don't know what our assignment was. How many did it? Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so last week you read us a text, and a quote from the text, as I wrote down, which might be a faulty quote, is, "There is a sphere where there is neither earth nor water," and a little bit later became "beyond the field of mind." And you read this text, and it was relatively quickly, and then you said, "Read this twice a day." And I was wondering if we could get the reference, because I don't know where this passage is from. That was last Tuesday.
Okay, so I didn't do last Tuesday. So that was Juju.
I think that was you and Panyadeepa Venerable.
Oh, she did that on me? Oh.
Yeah, that's when Panyadeepa
Okay.
was black guy and you were at the Hermitage and we were both there on
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to find it for you, but I will. So there is this field where there's neither earth nor water. Can you read it to me again? And I will.
Lou put the reference up there as the Udana Sutra.
What's it?
I don't know if that's what you were reading from, but she's the Udana Sutra.
Udana 8:1.
Yes, it is the, I found 3 translations of it, and it is connected to the Nirvana, right? When there is this fragment. Shall I read it to be sure if it's the correct one?
Great.
Yes, so I found 3 options, but one will be enough. 1 second. Yes. I feel you were also using the one with the word sphere, right? So there is that sphere, monks, where there is neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor wind, neither a sphere of the infinitude of space, nor a sphere of the infinitude of consciousness, nor a sphere of nothingness, nor a sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, neither this world nor the next world, nor sun nor moon. And there I say, there is neither coming nor going nor staying, neither passing away nor arising, unestablished, unevolving, without support, between brackets, mental object. Just this is the end of suffering, or in the other translation has the word stress.
Oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. Oh, sorry. Okay, so what was your question about that? You just wanted to know where the reference was to find it, but isn't it beautiful? And can you see how all of these teachings point to that place? Because everything that we concretize and bring in to existence that has been mind conceived, and he's talking about a place that is not based on any solidity whatsoever. And he's talking about, if anybody wanted to know why the jhanas, he was just talking about the jhanas, right? He talked about the formless jhanas. So we get to the 4th jhana, and he talks about the spheres of nothingness, the spheres of neither perception or non-perception. He talks all about after the 8 jhanas, there is still someplace else to go, that there is no coming and there is no going, and there is this existence. But here's the thing, we know it's not a place because it can be entered into here and now. So it's, when he speaks of a sphere, there is a type of existence. So he's not talking about nothingness. We always think that when we abandon our sticky, touchy, feely thing to things and to people, that apart from there, that there would be no life, no spark, no, and when we try to cut things off just to follow the rule or whatever, we cut things off, it's a hatchet job, so there becomes a disconnect. But he's not talking about cutting oneself off from things in that way of disconnecting. It's penetrating things to see their illusory nature, and then how mind has conceived them and held onto them. And that's something entirely different. So these practices we do, particularly concentration, that leads to jhana, that leads to meditative attainment. You don't practice jhana. Jhana is the result of something. We call it practicing jhana, but you're not practicing. No way to practice jhana, So in your meditation, when your meditation becomes deeper and more refined, you encounter these spheres that that prove to you that there is something else beyond the world of perceptions and views and experiences as we know it. And that's the encouragement. And that's also why, and he calls that jhana, he calls that meditative attainment. We also practice insight, but like insight's not really a practice. Insight is an insight, And so we have to kind of shift our notion or our idea. That's why I'm thinking this should be the year we abandon the word practice and practitioners, because it's leaving us sort of like outside the box. You know what I mean? We can't fully get in because we've attached to it in a certain kind of way. But when we can drop that and loosely be present with single focus, he says, we will enter into a whole new world here and now. And sometimes we have to hear this over and over, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, for it to uproot something we've already heard that has formed an opinion that we now have. So just keep listening, keep reading. That's a wonderful text. There's so many of them. I mean, just close your eyes and point to one. But that one is really beautiful. And if I told you all to read that all week, I add that to this week's too. Read that all week. I think it could change. And so sometimes we can make a mantra out of something like that, taking a line out of that. It doesn't always have to be in some foreign language. Mantra is a mind seal, something that impresses the mind so much that it liberates you from some other thought or way of looking at things, that hinder you. So get into mantra practice. Doesn't have to look all strange and woo-woo. Just take a line from the Dharma, and just keep reciting it until it's indelible, in the mind. Yeah. Do we have time for just 2 more minutes? Because we're really over. It's 1:23. And 2 people raised their hands, so they did their assignment. So I wanted to give them a chance to share quickly. One was Nancy, and I'm sorry I forgot which other hand went up.
Mhm.
Hi, Nancy. Um, I thought the assignment was to kind of examine, you were talking about your blue casino, and it sent me to reading more about casinos and trying to identify where I am at this point in my life. And so that's what I was working on. And I feel like when I read the different things that it's not one color, and I think Brian says that's fine. But right now, it's hard. I had to let go of being disappointed in my color. But so I tend to be more yellow with edges of red and a little bit of blue, not much, but some green. And so I didn't know whether I have to do a plate or a focus that's just the yellow that's strongest, or whether I shade it with the other things that I'm seeing.
When you say you're seeing, are you saying that when you're in meditation, there's something that you see?
When
And
I
you try to make a casino that kind of matched what was in your meditation? Is that what, when you say? Or it's just like how you wanted to make your casino?
Well, I was reading about the different colors, and that's where I was trying to see what I should make my plate be. When I'm actually sitting in meditation, it's more white with a yellow rim.
Okay, so uh, in the Majjhima Nikaya, I think, oh no, maybe it's in, no, maybe it's in the Visuddhimagga. It gives a real detailed explanation of the colors and what they do. I mean, how they develop you, and you should pick that color based on that. Here's the thing: if I tell you to dig uh, uh, a hole and water is 100 feet, and you so that's 100 feet, but you dug 10 holes of 10 feet, would you ever reach the water? Would you?
Probably not.
Nope, because the water is 100 feet. So you have to dig one hole 100 feet. But if you dig 10 holes 10 feet, you're never gonna reach the water. So I say that to say about a casino, you know, when you read about the how the characteristics affect the mind, perfect one casino. I know there's a teaching now where they're taking you through all the casinos, and that's fine if you really go there, but the way that it is articulated, or maybe after you perfect one, if you want to do something else. So here's my casino, if you can see it. It's a
This way, Venerable.
oh sorry. So this is my casino. It's a little bit bigger. I think then it's supposedly should be like around 9 inches. And I have it, I made it, I went to a pottery place because it said that the casinos should have some imperfections, because when you go for the countersign, when you, there's a time that you are looking at the casinos, I have it mounted on a string, and I have it hanging right there on my wall. And when I was practicing with it, and I just stare at it, and then I close my eyes, see what I see inside, and I see something, but usually I saw the, the bleed of the blue, and I saw, I don't know, some different colors, but not the blue. But I stayed with that until I got to the place that when I closed my eyes, I saw the blue plate. And then I saw the blue plate, and I could see its imperfections. That means that I had a picture, and that's why they said you should make it with some imperfections, so you'll know that you are seeing the plate. And then there comes another sign. You're not merging with the plate. You're not merging with the blue. So it's not like I'm lost in the blue, but there's something that shifts with the sign, the internal sign after a while, and it takes on a perfect blue, a perfect brightness, and then after a while it loses its distinction of color, and it's just the brightness. And that's when one has said to have apprehended the sign. So what it does is it develops us in the mind's capacity to concentrate, to fully penetrate something. So what happens after that is like, now I no longer use the plate. When I'm in meditation, I just use the breath. But once the breath gets still, right at that point where air's going in and the air's going out, the sign pops up. So there's that spark of light right there. And then that light brightens and it fills the whole space. And as it does, all of the hindrances are pushed away and subside. And that is the doorway to the present emerging experience. And so when we are back to where we can have people come in, I don't care if you live around the corner, you should come to a meditation retreat. Come to a jhana retreat, and I will tell you, you're not very far from this experience, from this knowing. Come to a jhana retreat. Come. Yes. Was there one other? Was it Mary? Yes.
I made the plate and I started meditating on it, and I noticed that the mind wanted to make up stories about the plate, and like the imperfections are like, oh, this is how humanity is. And so I have a devotional nature besides the greedy nature. So the devotional stuff started coming out, and then the second day I did it, then I saw it and I got irritated, and I thought, that's good. So I went into the irritation. And so what I discovered was shocking. I discovered something about myself I did not even know, that yes, at first, my devotional nature comes out, and then the greedy nature for me is about pushing things away, pushing people away. I've lived by myself for 18 years, and now I realize why. Because I falsely thought that my freedom was about not being around other people. That's false freedom. And so the freedom of the heart to be able to bring in anything and use the Dhamma to understand it is what I got. That my idea of true freedom was not real, and that the real freedom is being able to be mindful about every experience that you take in. So I'm just shocked at what I found out about myself, but I'm really grateful that I know why I've pushed people away for 18 years. And now I know that the freedom is about bringing everything in, bringing people in, bringing experiences in, instead of pushing it away. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, so he gave us 40, and I am going to close now. He gave us 40 meditation subjects, and he said the one is not for everybody. You know, so he even would have them come when they got a meditation subject or a meditation object, and he said, go away and sit with this for 3 days. I don't mean 3 days of 3 hours of meditation, but like 3 full days of nothing but sleeping and meditating. And if you haven't had some penetration, some breakthrough, said, then perhaps that's the wrong object for you. Come back and get another. And so that's why I want to say to you that the meditation object is not the end all and be all, but it's finding something that works with each person's mind in a way that it starts to free the mind. I thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to tell you how I started with this, or maybe I better save it for next week because we have to go. But the thing about the blue plate is it builds up solidity, the sense or the understanding of solidity, and that solidity becomes so firm and so definite that that's the meditation object that sitters use, like to walk on water, you know, because for them water has no water is solid for them, and that's how they can walk on water. So things that we call supernatural powers are not really, or miracles or things, they're not really that. It's just that we don't understand the foundation behind the manifestation. But there is an explanation behind every manifestation, even what we call supernatural or a miracle. And so many of the people who devote their lives purely to attainment in this ways display certain what appears to be powers to us, but it's a development of mind simply through their meditation object, completely shifting their sense of the nature of reality. It's really interesting. Thank you. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet with the inevitable difficulties of life. Just make sure that whatever growth you're having, that your purity measures up to it. Okay? All right. Then it can be used for good.